Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I want to bring this issue to a head a little bit because for the last several years we've been living in this world of harassment and people feeling unsafe and other things when it comes to our hobbies, when it comes to things like movies, like music, and certainly like comics. The whole Gamergate situation really kind of got a lot of attention to this, and then comics has been, I would say, in a slow roll, meaning Gamergate and kind of the game conflicts, it still is happening, but it felt like it came to a head faster. Things moved along a little quicker. With comics, it feels like it's one step in, one step out, just this constant. It just feels constant, and I don't know when this is all wrapping up, but I think that a lot of people talk around the situation. And I think that they wind up getting into a lot of hypotheticals and a lot of areas where it just convolutes and confuses everything. So I'm looking at this story. This is from the AP News, and this is today. And it says, artists behind bisexual Superman comic reportedly needed LAPD protection, by Brendan Morrow, who I think's written other things about comics in the past, as I recall, but I may be misthinking here. But the article basically goes like this. The studio and some of the artists behind a DC comic in which the new Superman comes out as bisexual reportedly had to receive LAPD protection. LAPD officers were recently dispatched to patrol the homes of Illustrator's production staffers behind a comic that reveals John Kent, DC's new Superman, is bisexual. TMZ reports. Angry fans inundated the studios behind the comic to complain about the announcement and make threats, and the studio subsequently called the LAPD, requesting for patrols to keep an eye out, the report says. Luckily, TMZ writes that nothing legitimate came from the threats, and the situation has since settled down. Then it goes on a little bit with the background, which I appreciate, by the way. Most articles are not putting in the background. So background here, DC Comics announced in October that John Kent, son of Clark Kent, who has taken over the mantle of Superman from his father, in a new issue of Superman, son of Kal-El, would come out as bisexual and begin a same-sex relationship. Art for the issue showed John sharing a kiss with reporter Jay Nakamura. Reporter? I think he's an activist. I don't know. Writer Tom Taylor told the New York Times the idea of replacing Clark Kent with another straight white savior felt like a missed opportunity, and for so many people, having a strongest superhero in comics come out is incredibly powerful. The announcement was quickly celebrated by many readers as a significant step forward for DC that was also met with some backlash. Taylor acknowledged in an interview with CNN at the time that we're going to get some backlash to this, but he added, the key to me isn't the people who are upset, it's for the people who are welcomed by this. All right, this article is fairly, I don't want to say benign, but it's at least mostly to the point, which is nice. If I hop over to TMZ, then that is a more spicy article today. Bisexual backlash spurs LAPD protection for artist studio, all caps. And it goes in with outraged fans targeting the folks behind the new comic shops, cops stepping in not to escalate, and you get kind of the same story. With the addition of still pretty scary and crazy, considering Superman and everything about him, including his bisexuality, is pure fiction, and yet some seems to have taken it very personally. Okay, so what do you say about this? Well, first of all, what you say about this is if you are threatening somebody with violence, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a I'm going to come get you, or whether it's an actual you get in your car and you drive over to the location and you try and scare somebody, you're wrong. You're in the wrong and you're doing wrong things and you know it. I think that this is where too quickly this kind of topic spirals into a lot of generalities of like, well, who are we talking about here? Did this really happen? We'll get to that in a minute. But you can actually make a really simple statement. Regardless of if it's John Kent coming out, if it's the new Iron Fist being Asian, if it's Marvel decides to bring back Elf as a comic, whatever it happens to be, if there's a reaction that includes violence, full stop. It doesn't matter if it's a right-wing issue or a left-wing issue, by the way. If hypothetically, if Marvel decided to do a comic let's say they bought the rights to Trump's Space Force and they decided to do a comic of a heroic cosmic Trump fighting aliens, and a bunch of people said, we're going to get you, we're going to kill you, we're going to burn down the studios, any of that kind of stuff, it's wrong. It doesn't matter the topic. It doesn't matter whether it's bisexual John Kent or any of these things. It is full out. It's wrong. And we all know this. That we all confuse ourselves with, well, but the other side did it kind of first. And it doesn't really matter who did it first. It doesn't matter what the topic is. It doesn't matter how alarmed you are. If there's an entertainment property, if there's something, this is not like war. This is not like Twitter likes to say, quote unquote, literal Nazis. This is entertainment. And if your reaction to entertainment is to threaten violence, you are in the wrong, period. I think that where this gets convoluted is that these things get thrown around very casually. If you say, I hate this on Twitter, is that considered violence? To some creators, yes, they have said that. And so this is what I mean, where everything has been mushed together, where somebody threatening to go to somebody's house and beat them up is now at the same level as somebody posting a tweet going, the creator should be ashamed. Those are two completely different worlds, but we've managed to align them all together where we're in this state of kind of crazy panic. I will also point out, and there's nothing completely wrong about this article, but I will say that when you write this, artist behind bisexual Superman comic reportedly needed LAPD protection, and then kind of 2 paragraphs in, it says, luckily TMZ writes that nothing legitimate came from the threats and the situation has since settled down. I would question, why are you writing an article about this? Why is any of this, by the way, news that's going to get shared out? Because what's going to happen, probably is already happening by the time I'm recording this, is people are going to share out this article. They're going to decry hate groups on the internet, and they're going to make a bunch of very bold statements. They're going to use this to say, let's get people away from comics and everything else. And they're going to miss the point buried in this, which was nothing legitimate came from the threats, and the situation has since settled down. Look, in my view, the reality is this. I am very pro knocking this shit down if it occurs. I would have zero problems if somebody who maybe gets in their car and does a drive-by of a creator's house to threaten them. I would have no problem with that person being arrested, charged, thrown in jail. Zero problem with that. That's unacceptable on every level. I don't want to see news articles about this. I don't want to see TMZ reports about this. I want to see police action about this. I do. Now, again, to be clear, no, I don't want to see somebody thrown in jail for writing a tweet that says, I hate this. But if you are going off of the computer and you are getting into a car, or you're sending, very spooky. I know that there's some people at DC who received physical mail, physical letters with like pictures of Tom Taylor being decapitated. I know for a fact. I was on a video call with somebody earlier this week, and I know that this existed. And that's wrong. If you're doing that, again, you know you're doing something wrong. Absolutely. If you're taking it further than that, you're really trying to follow up on physical violence, and absolutely the police should investigate you. Absolutely, they should look into these threats. And no artist, no creator, period, deserves to have this kind of treatment based on, just son of Superman being bisexual. No. I mean, but again, this too often gets used as a weapon to do other things. The people who are sharing it around that I've seen, sharing this article, are not doing it to say, hey, violence is wrong, full stop. They're doing it to say, hey, this giant blanket of people, all the fans who have criticized this move are all psychopaths. That's how it's being used, and that's also wrong. You know you're exaggerating. You know you're using that to kind of bolster up your argument when you don't need an argument. Buy the comic. Don't buy the comic. The end. This last line, it was met with some backlash. Yeah, any decision is going to be met with backlash. Backlash is not bad. I'm sorry, comic companies. I'm sorry, entertainment companies. I'm sure everyone would love for everything to just be accepted and it is just cheers and applause and everything is wonderful and people love it. I am sure that people would love that to happen. That's never going to happen. Any decision that gets made in entertainment, when you've got fans, is going to have some people who like it and some people who don't. You could change your theme song, this for a couple videos on your channel, and you'll see people who are losing their shit about it. That's going to happen. There's a huge difference between backlash or people saying, I hate it, and taking it to this next step. And what you see too often is this we're going to try and merge those two together. Why? Because we don't want to hear any backlash at all. We want to make people scared to say they don't like something. That is the goal. I'm sorry, that is exactly the goal here. I think the police and the companies should absolutely aggressively stop lunatics that are doing this. And I would be happy if there was a story like this where some person actually took it upon themselves to go to one of these artists' houses and threaten them. Police showed up, drug them off, and there's a story there of this fucking idiot being drug off into a police car for being a lunatic. Put a face on it. Put a name on it. Somebody who's going to actually conduct themselves with violence in this way, yeah, expose and book. And let's separate the people who are in that camp, who are actually doing this, from the people online who say, I don't like it, or they make a meme that you find hurts your feelings. I think that these two things have got to be separated. Yes, I mean, I don't think this is what Taylor meant in his interview with CNN, but he said, we're going to get some backlash. The key to me isn't the people who are upset. Good. Good. If you mean that, then good. Let the people who are upset be upset and call it a day. Move on. You don't need to obsessively focus on them. And this is, again, what goes on social media. People obsessively focus on the people who don't like things rather than the people who do. You look at a lot of tweets from creators, and in many cases, they barely acknowledge the people who like their work. They're too consumed with wanting to go after the people who don't because it's a fucking game to them. I read stuff like this, and I always have the exact same reaction. This is pathetic. Somebody who actually, whatever the crazy threat is that was enough to get the LAPD involved. And no, I don't believe for a second that there was somebody who, posted a tweet and some DC staffer's like, I'm going to sick the police on them. It wasn't a tweet. There was more to it than that. I'm confident. Again, I saw one picture. I'm confident there is more stuff. But my point here is that's a very small handful of people doing it that way, who are that crazy. It's a couple people. It's not hundreds of people online. And you can't conflate the two. I want to see the people who are actually going out there committing violence, whatever the topic. Those people need to get just fucked. The people who are expressing their dislike, I'll take Taylor at his word. The key to me isn't the people who are upset. Cool. Move on, make your comic. It sells or it doesn't sell. You live with that consequence of whatever happens. You're either rich or you have to recalibrate. You're taking off title, one way or another. But the people who are complaining about you online are not the people to obsessively focus on. The people who are taking it into their hands to do this dumb, violent shit, those people are the people who need to get just rolled. And I would love to see us stop trying to convolute the two together. This is a dumb game. I think everyone, I don't know about everyone, but I would guess the majority of you out there who are listening to this right now, who are irritated with DC, don't like this decision about John Kent, don't want to buy the comic. I would bet the vast majority of you listening would go, I hate this, but yeah, if somebody showed up at the DC offices with a baseball bat and said they're going to beat up the artist, yeah, that person should get arrested. Even the critics would agree with that. Let's stop mixing up crazy people with critics. I understand that my words here mean jack shit, but that's what I would like. Thanks for listening.